Jerem.
Here.
Milton.
Here.
Pauls.
Here.
Mr. President.
Here. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation by Councilmember Rich Paul.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, in a few days we should be thanking our moms or our mothers. So that's I think we should be about today to think about how important they have been in our lives. My mother has passed, but I'm sure she's still working on me, and I do have a feeling she has a ways yet to go. So thank you, your moms, in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you.
City Clerk certified publication of the Daily Record, the official newspaper, on April 29th, the North Fork Council, and a regular City Council meeting May 3rd, 2016. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Thank you. This Omaha City Council meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it is not appropriate to applaud nor convey disapproval. These actions detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic devices. Mr. Clerk.
Reconsideration. Item number 5, motion by Councilmember Milton to reconsider Resolution 494 adopted April 12th, being resolution to deny the application of
Second.
Terra public hearing. Item number 6 is the public hearing in compliance with Section 157F of the Internal Revenue Code relating to the City of Omaha Public Facilities Corporation lease revenue refunding bonds, Omaha Baseball Stadium project.
Yes, ma'am. Public hearing on agenda item number 6 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
We'll place that on file. 7 is an ordinance authorizing and approving a lease purchase agreement between the city and the City of Omaha Public Facilities Corporation to provide funding for the advancement of the refunding of Series 2016A and taxable Series 2016B public facilities bonds.
This public hearing was held on April 26, 2016.
And we have amendment of the whole.
Motion to approve the amendment. Yeah, as of the whole.
Second. Moved and seconded to pass the amendment of the whole. Roll call.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Milton?
Yes.
Pauls?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
7 is passed as amended, 7-0. Item number 8, resolution approving, deeming final, and authorizing the distribution of the preliminary official statement pertaining to the 4 or more series of lease revenue refunding bonds of the City of Omaha Public Facilities Corporation to be captioned Corporation Lease Revenue Refunding Bonds, Omaha Baseball Stadium Series 2016A, 2016B, 2016C, and 2016D.
Public hearing on agenda item number 8 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Jerem? Milton? Pauls? Mr. President?
Yes.
8 is adopted, 7-0. We'll take resolutions, preliminary plats, and subdivision agreements. We'll take 9 and 10 as one case. 9 is resolution of preliminary plat entitled 132 View, located northeast of 132nd and I Street, along attached conditions accepted. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval, and 10 is a replat transmitted herewith entitled 132 View. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items 9 and 10 are today. Proponents, please.
Afternoon, Jason Thielen, E&A Consulting Group, 10909 Mill Valley Road, Suite 100. Here on behalf of the applicant, with me today also is Kyle Voll and Jim Boozer, representing the developer as well. We are simply finalizing a minor plat to take one lot that was platted one lot a few months back and splitting it into 3. Be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion? Moved and seconded to approve item number 8. There are no further lights. Roll call.
This is 9 and 10.
I mean 9 and 10. I'm sorry.
Thompson?
Yes.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett? Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Mr. President.
Yes.
9 and 10 are adopted, 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, agenda items number 11 through 16 shall be laid over 2 weeks for publication and public hearing. Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, agenda items 17 through 20 shall be laid over for 2 weeks. We'll take items 21, 22, and 23. They're all one case. Special use permits. Item 21, resolution special use permit application to allow indoor entertainment in a general industrial district located northeast of 45th and Cumming Street is hereby approved. A planning board and planning department recommend approval. 22 is a resolution that a special use permit to allow general office in a general industrial district is hereby approved. A planning board and planning department recommend approval. And 23 is a resolution the application for a major amendment to a special use permit to allow personal improvement services and personal services in a general industrial district is hereby approved. A planning board and planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items 20, 21, 22, and 23 are today. Proponents, please.
Proponent Ray Trimble, owner, developer, 4383 Nicholas, Suite 300. Here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. It's been moved and seconded to approve. Dr. Thompson.
Yes, I just wanted to say to Ray, thank you for what you're doing. Ray is one of my constituents, but I like the fact that you're reaching out and doing urban infill, and we appreciate people from all over the city recognizing the need for urban infill in the places where it's needed, so thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve items 21, 22, and 23. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls. Mr. President.
Yes.
21 through 23 are adopted, 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, agenda item number 24 through 25 shall be laid over 2 weeks for publication and public hearing. Liquor, item number 26, Blackstone Social, 3910 Farnham Street. A Class C liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 26 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street. Appearing this afternoon on behalf of the applicant. This is the latest local business to go into the Blackstone District. As you heard this morning at the pre-meeting, there is a deletion for the basement for right now, but you can expect that addition to come back later this year. With that, be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
The amendment.
The amendment.
The motion and second to approve the amendment on item 26. No
Yeah.
further lights. Roll call.
Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton. Pauls. Mr. President.
Yes.
Jerem passed the second time for a potential conflict of interest. Now, as amended.
It's amended.
As amended. Second.
Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Jerem passed the second time for potential conflict of interest. 26 is passed as amended. 6-0-1 passing. Item number 27. And 28. Cornhusker Beverage Mart, 8510 K Street. New application, old location is the Class C liquor license, is change of corporate owners.
Public hearing on agenda items 27 and 28 are today. Proponents, please.
28.
I'm the owner and manager and president of the corporation of Willow Springs
Name and
Bottling.
address, please.
Is 5114 Gertrude.
And your name?
James Subcheck.
James, okay. And I assume you're here to answer any questions.
Answer any questions, yes.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yeah, Jim, are the new owners going to continue to make the root beer,
Yes.
sell craft brew supplies,
Yes.
wedding invitations?
Everything we've done before.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
85th and
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Moved and seconded to approve items 27, 28. No further lights. Roll call.
Thompson. Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
27 and 28 are adopted, 7-0. Item number 29, Sam and Louis New York Pizzeria, 18010R Plaza, Suite 103, Class I liquor license, new application, no location. This is an annexation.
Public hearing on agenda item number 29 is today. Proponents, please.
Proponent Roger Broderson, 17135 County Road 15, Herman, Nebraska. I'm a partner and general manager.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item 29. No further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
29 is adopted 7-0.
Thank you.
Item number 30, Hunan Fusion, 2405 South 132nd Street, Class I liquor license, new application, no location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 30 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Chu Fengye. I'm the manager of there, and it's a new owner here.
Hello.
Address?
2405 South 132nd Street, and called Hunan Fusion. And my name is Zium Chen, and I'm the new owners.
Thank you. Are there any other, did you wish to say anything else? Or? Okay. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Move to approval. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Number 30, no further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
30 is adopted 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
31, My Pie Pizza, 2085 North 120th Street, Suite D6, Class I liquor license, new application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 31 is today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Blair Horner with PRM North Park, doing business as My Pie, and 2085 North 120th Street in Omaha. I'm just here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item 31. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
31 is adopted 7-0. Item number 32 is the Panda House at 301 South 16th Street. Class I liquor license, new application, old location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 32 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm the owner and manager of the Panda House. It's a couple blocks away. And the address is 301 South 16. I'm here to answer any question that you have.
Well, first of all, Ben's a good name, so I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
got it. But anyway, are there any? Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item 32. No lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
32 is adopted
Thank you.
7-0. Item number 33 is Rojas Mexican Grill and Margarita Bar, 1212 Harney Street. Request permission to appoint Nicholas Hobb manager, and we have a request to withdraw that application.
Second.
Moved and seconded to withdraw item 33. No lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
33 is withdrawn, 7-0. Item number 34 is Rojas Mexican Grill and Margarita Bar, 17010 Wright Plaza, Suite 100. Request permission to appoint Patrick Lynch manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 34 is today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Sean Kelly, 7134 Pacific Street, appearing on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Patrick Lynch. I'm the general manager at Roja Mexican Grill at
Thank you.
17010 Wright Plaza.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Move to approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve item 34. No lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Jerem passes the second time for potential conflict of interest. 34 is approved, 6-0, 1 passing. Item number 35 is a resolution that the Midwest African Supermarket at 4644 Dodge Street is hereby released to the conditions imposed on its package liquor license. No selling of single containers less than 32 ounces of beer and 375 milliliters of liquor.
Public hearing on agenda item number 35 is today. Proponents, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Cameron Hassan of Hush Blackwell LLP, 13330 California Street, Suite 200. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Stephen Hoth, and Midwest African Supermarket. Mr. Hoth is in attendance here today to ask that the restrictions be removed. The license was issued 1 year ago. There have not been any incidents or issues at the location over the past year. I do have 2 letters from neighboring operations offering support. I'd offer that into the official record. And we ask today that the restrictions be removed to allow an even playing field with the competitors in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Dr. Thompson.
Okay. If I could have the attorney and Stephen, both of you, if you could come up. Go ahead and say your name into the record.
Stephen? Say your name.
Name and address.
My name is Stephen. Address is 4644 Dodge.
Okay, Stephen, so how long have you been under these restrictions?
On the 10th of this month, it's going to be a year.
A full year?
Yes.
During that time, have there been any problems with the neighbors or with businesses close to you or with the police officials?
No.
So you've got a clean record?
Yes.
Okay. In your words, you're basing your appeal, wanting to take off these restrictions based on what?
It's based on my the competition, you know, of all my neighbors that really compete with me. They don't have the restriction that I have. That put me at disadvantage to, you know, to compete with.
You think it's an unfair playing field?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The attorney again, if you could discuss what are what's the layout in terms of other establishments in that area? How close, what are some of the places that have these restrictions or don't have them?
I'll use 3 examples of those that do not. There's a gas station of BP around 42nd and Dodge. I believe it's on the southeast corner. There's a Mega Saver on Dodge just west of that location, I believe on the north side of Dodge. And there's a BP gas station in Dundee. I believe it's Underwood and 50th Street. Those are 3 of the principal competitors that do not have the restriction. One example that does have a restriction, I wouldn't exactly call them a competitor because it's a pharmacy. It's the CVS pharmacy, that controversial CVS pharmacy that just went in a few years ago on Dodge Street right around, I believe it's 50th Street.
Mm-hmm. So again, you're representing this as a case where it's an undue burden on someone who's proved himself over a year, and you think we should lift it because his behavior warrants a second chance, really?
Yes, that's correct. I believe Mr. Hoth has represented to me that it's somewhere between 10 to 15 customers per day that may come in looking to purchase that he's not able to sell because of the restrictions on his license and because he has a perfect track record over the past year. We ask that these restrictions be removed so that the business can prosper.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, have you made any connection with some of the activist groups in that area? Because one of the groups that come before us often is centered right in that Midtown area when they're concerned about concentration of liquor license. Have you reached out to any neighborhood groups or any activist groups become part of the neighborhood?
No, I'm not aware of this in that area.
Do you understand that you probably would need to make that move, regardless of how it's going to be voted on today, because I have no idea? You probably need to reach out and try to make more political connections with the people that have power in that area. And it sounds like you've done a little bit with your immediate neighbors, but you may have to go further than that. Are you willing to do that?
Oh, yes, sure.
Okay.
I will.
Mr. Chair, at this point, I'll yield the floor with the option of maybe coming back later.
There are no further lights.
No further lights? Well, if there's no further lights, I'm satisfied, and I've been on council for a long time, and I always believe in giving a person a chance. Now, once you blow that chance, then, I don't want to hear from you again. But from my personal meeting with you, it seems like you're a very level-headed businessman, and it seems like you would have an establishment that would be run with a really tight ship. So I'm going to take a chance on you, and I'll go ahead and move the approval to accept removing the restrictions. But like I said, I don't know if I'll get a second, and I don't know how the vote is going to go, but I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 35. There are no further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
35 is adopted 6-1.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Or 36 is resolution that in Petro at 5203 Northwest Rail Highway is hereby released from the conditions imposed on its package liquor license. No selling of single containers less than 32 ounces of beer and 375 milliliters of liquor.
Public hearing on agenda item number 36 is today. Proponents, please.
My name is Ashad Nazir. I'm the actually owner for the gas station over on 5203 Northwest Radial Highway. My address is 16962 Polk Street in Omaha, 68135. So any questions up here?
Thank you.
Have a hand.
Thank you. Is there any other proponents who wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Ann Gordon. I'm the manager for BP and Petro at 5203 Northwest Radial. I've been there, and with the former owner, I've been there over 5 years now. And any questions you might have, I'm here.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Ms. Melton.
Yeah, so could you give me your name again, manager?
Oh, I'm Ann Gordon.
Oh, Ann. Okay. Miss Gordon, and you've been there over 5 years?
Yeah.
And so are you there consistently at this location?
Oh, yes.
Because the difference I see between this application and the last application is that you're right next to a high school and a park.
Okay.
Or school and a park. So it does make a little bit of a difference. But you're there, you've been there 5 years. What do you do or will you do to make sure that you don't have underage people buying any of these single containers and or stealing the single containers if they know they're not going to be able to purchase them from you? And then I think some of the concern is that there will be litter or it will attract maybe people to there in the park where you have kids and families.
We're very good about IDing and carding people, make verbal eye contact and verbal contact with every customer as they come in. They walked past the counter in order to get to the liquor, so there's no way they can be unseen grabbing any purchases they might
Also,
need.
we have a sign and a rule for you cannot bring the backpack in the store, and only 2 students are allowed, which is like we already have the sign on the doors. So you cannot come in the store with the backpack. Even if you come in, you have to leave it with the cashier.
Okay. And so the single shots, they'll be kept fairly secure behind the counter?
Definitely.
Okay. All right. With that, I don't think I have any further questions, other than have there been any incidents with your store in the last year?
No.
You've been there 5 years. Have you had any?
I worked with the former owner, and I'm very happy with the new owner. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Festus.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'm familiar with this site as well. Obviously, it's in my district, and we talked about it, I think, when you first took your...
We talked about 2 years ago.
Your ownership,
I agreed
yeah.
on with you guys, like you told me that, come back. And
yeah.
Maybe you're familiar with the property. I did.
Sure.
It was almost, the ex-owner was almost ready to go out of the business, but I got in there. I spent a lot of money to upgrade it,
Yeah. And that was about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, almost 2 years ago. We have a very good success, but the thing is now there's a competition like few blocks. The new gas station open up, and they never have any restrictions the day opens.
Yeah, so I understand those arguments, and some council members were asking me my feelings on this earlier, and I didn't really express a strong feeling, but I did at the time because there had been incidents previously under previous ownership that the neighbors were concerned about. And it was right by Benson High School, but we did close the underpass there, and it sounds like you're taking appropriate measures with the backpacks
We
and
have
everything
extra
else.
security on the weekend. I have a security guy who comes out on the weekend in the evening time, just to be more secure.
Yeah, and I think you're running a good operation there. I haven't had any complaints, but it is right next to a neighborhood, which makes me a little bit nervous. So I'm not sure what
I brought a lot of, more options for neighbor. It's full-time grocery store now. I take food stamp, everything.
Yeah.
We have like 70% grocery items in the store.
Mhm.
But the thing is, we have to have that restriction removed too, because, a lot of customers are just going to the other businesses because, we cannot sell them the small size.
Yeah, so I don't fault you for coming back and making that request. Do you have other stores you own as well?
I have a store in Lincoln that I've been running since, it's going to be 5 years this year.
Okay, so one in Lincoln, one in Omaha?
Yeah.
And there are some changing dynamics further to the west, although that is over 8 blocks away with the new Buc-ee's there and Benson proper.
I'm not against anybody, but the thing is, you have to have your option.
Okay, I understand. I'm not sure what I'll do here today, but I understand why you're making the request. It just makes me a little bit uneasy, given all the dynamics on that particular spot. No reflection upon you as an operator. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gurnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I'm sitting here listening to my colleagues and the applicant responding back with answers, I could not get the picture out of my head. I believe I have the largest attending high school in the city of Omaha in my district, a little over 2,400 students. And there was a license approved right across the street from that school. I mean, if the kids tripped on the way out the front door, they'd land in the liquor department of this facility. But yet they still got it because of
We are
the
fair,
measurements.
we are
okay?
far enough then.
You don't need to respond. No need to respond. In fact, you can sit down and wait for the vote because I'm going to do an editorial.
Sorry.
And I picture that, even though that we had, as I recall, sort of a lengthy debate, and all forms of communication, and I fully understand it's right by a high school, it's right directly south of a large park in Benson, and I get all of those dynamics, but we sort of set something in motion back a few years ago when they did it in my district. I looked at all of the dynamics, and especially the operation that you have, lack of complaints that exist, the consistency of the management there, being you don't have managers going in out of 60, 90 days, someone that's consistent. And I'm very impressed with the fact that you look at body language when they come into the store. So I think you listened and learned at the management class, and that is a good thing, because sometimes we really have to shake managers to get them to understand. You need to get to that class, learn at least one thing that could possibly keep you as a good neighbor in a specific neighborhood, or actually anywhere in the city, if you would. So I'm willing to support this, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. No lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
No.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
36 is adopted 5-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause an item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council meeting following the consent agenda in the order in which they are removed, unless otherwise provided by city council rules of order.
The public hearing on agenda items numbers 37 through 41 were held on April 26, 2016. Moved and seconded to approve. No further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett. Jerem. Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
37 through 41 are passed 7-0. On the resolution consent agenda, we're removing item number 56.
Item number 56. The public hearing on agenda items numbers 42 through 55. Which one?
55, you're right. We're removing 56.
42 through 55 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by your name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent.
Spencer Magruder, 1524 Cummings. Item number 43, professional service agreement with HDR for $707,637. I am a proponent. Reason why I'm a proponent is because it does have a utilization of small and emerging small businesses. HDR is to be applauded for including that, although it's only 6.2%. I still think that they need to be applauded for doing that. On another note, I appeared before you last on March 22nd, and I was told by this body that someone would be getting back to me regarding the economic inclusion as it applies to professional service agreement. And no one has as yet. So I'd like to know where we're at on that. And I would also like someone to address, at that meeting, I was told that the economic inclusion for professional services, there was a moratorium on that. And the city was negotiating with a trade organization that represents engineers, design engineers of Nebraska. I guess it's ACEC. And I just wanted to know where we were at in that regard. I guess my concern is that this body passed a very good law, the economic inclusion law. But if we start catering to organizations that represent participants in the marketplace, then and start adjusting the law to accommodate this group, and then the next group is going to use that as a precedent, because I guess if you modify the law to ACEC's requirements or desires, then the next group is going to be AGC that comes in. They have a constituency that will feel burdened by this ordinance. And so I guess my position is that you pass the good law, all you need to do is enforce it and let the marketplace take care of itself. These companies are in the business of solving problems, very complex problems. I don't think trying to figure out how to get economic inclusion when it's a priority for the city and taxpayers of the city to have that accomplished, I don't think that's that big of a problem in the larger scheme of the problems that these firms solve. What you have before you, I did a quick study, I think in that meeting I was told that the moratorium was for small member firms of 1 or 2 person firms. Well, looking at their membership, I didn't see any 1 or 2 member firms. As a matter of fact, the smallest firm number of employees I saw doing my quick research and calling the firms and asking them how many employees do you have was right at 19. And that's a specialty firm. That I think they were a structural engineer, I think. But anyway, I think that we would be best served by the city enforcing the laws that's on the books, and again, let the marketplace and competition take care of all those other issues. Because I'm telling you, if you make, I understand that it's a situation where it's based on their qualifications, the firm's qualifications. But if you put those firms in competition with each other and let them know that as part of the criteria for deciding who will be awarded the design contract, that their economic inclusion package will be evaluated as part of that, as part of the criteria for award, they'll get it done. I trust that they will.
Mr. Magruder, I think, first of all, we had a meeting today, the Human Rights and Relations Committee had a meeting today, and I think it's more appropriate for our chairperson, Amy Melton, to answer your question. I may have a few comments after that, but I think our chairperson needs to address you first. Ms. Melton.
Well, we had our meeting today, so if somebody hadn't gotten back to you, I think it's because we've had back-to-back meetings since that ended. I think none of us even had time to eat lunch today. So we had our meeting today. We invited in the professional services. In fact, we had some, I think, very healthy discussion, but at the end, I think that there's a lot more that needs to be discussed. So we're working with Spencer Danner, who is the department chair, who has put together the guidance documents, has worked with Heather Tippy Pierce. And I think we're going to need to continue to working on with these members and the enforcement of the EI. And I think Mr. Danner made it very clear that it's, I don't want to speak for you, Mr. Danner, but it's one of your #1 priorities right now. Is that correct?
Spencer Danner, Human Rights and Relations. Yes, it is one of my top priorities to ensure that we have consensus on economic inclusion plans.
And you're currently working on the guidance documents and the questions for which you will be presenting to potential bidders, professional service bidders. Is that right?
That's correct. We'll be continuing to work on the plan, something that's uniform for all the departments to be able to utilize, but in addition, making sure that the council and the administration all feel comfortable with the plan and that we're all on the same page as that.
And I don't know that Mr. Stubbe's here, but Mr. Danner, I think you could probably answer this question. Currently, our Public Works Department already is looking at all of those contracts and ensuring that there is economic inclusion as part of the Public Works bids. Is that right?
Technically, no. I mean, they do review the contracts, but since we have removed economic inclusion from professional services contracts, that is not that is no longer looked at on those particular projects. The economic inclusion plan in general was a pilot program for the CSO program. So with the economic inclusion plan itself, because we don't actually have a requirement, there are some opportunities there to say that there is an encouragement there, but nothing that is followed as far as saying that there's a plan for all the CSO Public Works items.
Okay, because I guess I was hearing something different from Public Works, that even though there's not that requirement, they continue to work with, and including specifically, I think we talked about HDR, that even though it's not required, HDR goes out and attempts in every contract they have to identify the small and emerging businesses that could be used and break those contracts down.
Sure.
Is that what I heard?
Yeah, for HDR, that was their decision. They weren't required to do that, so they did kind of step outside the box and was able to identify SEBs that they would utilize from an economic inclusion standpoint.
Okay, and then there was also some discussion that although Public Works has kind of the internal policies on making sure the SEBs are being used, you're also working on kind of a general policy guideline for all the other departments who don't necessarily run into this every day, but certainly there are some different parks contracts and things like that, just so that there's a kind of a more consistent policy throughout all the departments in the city.
Absolutely. We are working on policies, working with Michelle Peters from the City Attorney's Office to ensure that we do have streamlined and uniform policy and procedures that all departments do follow.
Okay. So we are, as you can see, still working on it. In fact, just this morning we had to, it hit 10:30 and we had to continue the kind of lively discussion we were having. But I think there's a lot of work to do, and I appreciate Mr. Danner's efforts, Heather Tippy Pierce's efforts. Marty Bielek was also in the meeting, the mayor's chief of staff, who has had multiple meetings. And so I think that we will be able to, in the near future, at least it's my hope, work on getting an EI guidance document in place so that the engineering firms, it's important that they know what they need to do. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to give them a little more guidance on that, and also recognize kind of some of the predicaments they're in. They are sometimes specialized, and there is some limited things. And I know Dr. Thompson had some excellent suggestions, ideas, and I think we all work together in sharing those. Now we maybe need to take some of those big ideas and try and actually make sure they happen. So it is a work in progress, and I do think that we continue. And again, I think we are fortunate to have companies such as an Agenda Item 43 that you're actually here as a proponent of, that they don't have to be required by law to do it. They're doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm. And if they can find a way to do it, the other firms can too. And just a side note, the law went into enforcement or into action, or was passed, or back in January of 2010. This is 2016, and we're still trying to figure it out. I guess, is there a sense of urgency? Is there a sense of urgency with getting this done? We've had 6 years, and we're still struggling with trying to figure out what to do.
Well, and sir, I can't.
Let me stop everybody here for a minute. Let me first of all just close the public hearing.
Okay.
We haven't had and we have someone else that wants to speak. Okay. Before we close the public hearing,
okay.
I want to hear from him. But go ahead.
That was all I had to say. Is that, what's the time frame for getting this done? I heard the last time I was told that we're working on it. Now I'm hearing we're working on it again. I guess I'm just wondering,
Mr. President,
do we have a timeline?
Well, and I'd like to say I can't speak for what happened 6 years ago, but I can tell you in the term that I've been here, I think we have worked very well, and we actually got this going. We not only have doubled the size of the Human Rights and Relations Department, we've appointed an executive director, director of the Human Rights Department, Mr. Danner. The City Council formed its own committee. When I came on board, the Human Rights and Relations Department was just stuck in a committee with libraries and human resources. We had all three, which actually doesn't give enough attention to all three of those very important departments. We took Human Rights and Relations and made it its own committee with separate committee members, that of which the President and Dr. Thompson and I sit on. And again, our meeting was today, and Spencer Danner has been working very hard on it. So the fact that this started in 2010, well, we simply weren't here, and we simply did not have the resources and the people that we have now, and that we've been doing just within less than a year. So that's all I can tell you is what we're doing now. I can't speak for what was or wasn't done in the past, but it is something that does take a little time, because if you take a little time, we just want to get it done right. And I can assure you that I think that between the mayor's office, Mr. Danner, and our committee, we're going to get there.
There'll be Dr. Thompson. I want to address your question as well, but Dr. Thompson.
Yes, Mr. Magruder. So I'm one of the ones that was here in 2010, and if in fact I've dragged my feet on that, I apologize, but I'm in on it now, boots deep. And it does appear to me that the philosophical rift between the two entities is larger than I thought. And so one of the reasons why we didn't get a lot done today is because we weren't even in the same ballpark. The two groups weren't talking the same language. So don't be surprised if it takes a little longer than you thought. And if in fact you are unable to get a hold of one of the three committee members, always feel free to call the council staff, and Ms. Letty will always give you an update as far as where we're at. We are focused on it now, and but it will take a little bit more time than I originally thought, but we are working on it.
I'll answer your question in a minute. We've got another person that wants to speak, so let me have you come to the microphone if you wish to speak. Name and address. And
my name is Carl Clough. I'm what's that right here?
Yeah, right there, in front of the microphone.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carl Clough. I was born and raised here in Omaha. I was born in South Omaha. And eventually, we moved to North Omaha, and I watched Omaha over the years deteriorate, just go down by pieces. What we need, or what needs to be done, is our streets are in terrible situations in North Omaha. I imagine some of y'all know this by now. Especially go far as north, as far as
Mr. Clough, let me keep you on the topic that we're talking about today. And right now, what we were talking about is the ACEC efforts with diversity and inclusion in their packages.
Say that again.
It was item 42.
I must have missed that one then.
Yeah, on the agenda. That's where we are now.
That's where we are now.
Yeah.
I don't know that much. I don't know nothing about that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I thought maybe I could sit up there and just tell you about our streets in North Omaha. They're in terrible situations. But thank you anyway.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Magruder, let me respond to you as well, and let me respond to you this way. And this is my perspective. This is not speaking for the committee or the council or anything. It's my perspective. After the meeting this morning with HRR, Human Rights and Relations, ACEC was invited. I was very disappointed at what happened. I was very disappointed that they have not moved further than they have. I was very disappointed that they have not shared. They brought a document down to us today for us to look at and potentially approve that had not been gone over with Human Rights and Relations, nor had it been gone over with the Public Works Department. So I was very disappointed in where we were. I'm very disappointed in where we are. I'm very disappointed in how slow we're going. I don't disagree with you on that. We will work to speed things up a little bit, and we will work to stop what some might consider to be game playing going on. So that needs to be addressed. I just want you to know from me, those are my concerns, and the meeting today was very disappointing to me. Mr. Pauls.
Thank you, Mr. President. You guys constantly, meeting after meeting, build a case that I have been proposing. So you're talking about this committee meeting you had this morning, and the rest of us know very little about it, which I understand. But if these meetings would be open to the public, then there wouldn't be any game playing. So I'm just saying, is you're helping lay the groundwork when I bring this in front of this council in the future, that some of our committee meetings need to be open so the media, so other people can be there to hear what we're saying, and maybe the frustration. So, because apparently this morning there was frustration. I think the public needs to know this, because I think the council is trying to find the solution or the answer to some of the issues, and sometimes it doesn't happen because nobody knows what's going on. Just as I'm saying, you're just building groundwork for me, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
At the risk of further making the volcano blow higher, I guess, there was another briefing this morning on the desire of Public Works to contract with SCS Engineering, not a member of ACEC, for the study of the yard waste collection. And it has been a very busy day for Council Member Melton. Near the end of the meeting, she had to get to another meeting, so when you left, Mr. Festus and I continued asking questions, and one of the questions asked was about their firms. Were they a member of ACEC, and did they have an economic inclusion plan? Well, they didn't really know what I was talking about. So I asked the Public Works official, Ms. Cudahy, to provide that contractor with the documentation to be prepared to discuss it when that comes to the council, so that if it's not even something on their radar, it is now on their radar, even though there is this moratorium for professional service contracts.
Thank you. There are no further lights. Is there a motion for 42 through 55? Motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. No further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson. Gurnett. Jerem. Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
42 through 55 are adopted 7-0. Now, item 56, resolution, the appointment of Tom Hyman as a non-union master plumber, member of the plumbing board. It's hereby confirmed. We have a request from the administration to place that on file.
Motion to place on file. Second.
Moved and seconded to place item 56 on file. No lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
56 is placed on file. Resolution, item number 57, resolution, the Law Department is authorized to make an offer to allow judgment under specific terms to be taken against the City of Omaha in litigation pending in the United States District Court for the District of Nebraska entitled Johnson versus the City of Omaha.
Public hearing on agenda item number 57 is today. Proponents, please. Those in favor.
You're opposed. They're proponents.
Yeah, we'll give her the microphone.
Yeah, he got a mic for her.
You can leave. You can
Right there, so she can see everybody. There you go.
Your name and address, please. Name and address.
My name is Sharon Johnson, and my address is 3321 Seward.
Thank you.
Do you want to read something?
Did you want to read something?
Maybe that's what I was going to ask.
Yes.
Give it over the mic.
We are here today because we are in strong disagreement of the settlement that were proposed to us.
Okay, so you're an opponent.
Opponent.
You're an opponent?
I'm sorry?
You're an opponent.
You're against.
You're against the settlement.
Yes, I am.
Okay, hold on just a second. Let me make sure there are not any other proponents. Stay right there.
Okay.
Let me make sure are there any proponents who wish to be heard on item 57? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Now it's your turn.
Okay. Okay, I do have it here.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I'll talk up.
Okay. We would like to ask for our day in court. We feel that mediation meeting was not explained, and we were met under two separate agendas. We were told all facts were going to be presented at that time. All the facts were not presented at that time. And everything that we requested was not considered. We would like to file an appeal or protest. Against the settlement.
Okay. Thank you.
What's your name?
And your name again?
My name is Sharon Johnson.
Sharon Johnson. Thank you. Are there any other opponents who wish to be heard?
Do you wish to speak?
My name is Octavius Johnson. My address is 3321 Seward Street. I'm a party in this, this settlement. Like she said, we just like to see our day in court. We're just satisfied with the conclusion. The conclusion basically dismisses my family, everyone involved except for myself, and I'm not alone in this.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other opponents who wish to be heard?
Oops, one more. You could maybe bring her down the other side.
Why don't you bring her down the other side?
The other aisle, please.
Hello,
All right, name and address, please.
I'm Cherie Johnson,
Okay,
and 3321 Susan.
thank you.
Me and my family,
Put the microphone up closer to your mouth.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
We have all decided that we do not want to settle at this point. We'd rather have our day in court or a remediation where they have to consider everything, all the injuries, post-traumatic stress, mental anguish, the pains that 3 of the family members still have. I don't think they were addressed. They never got addressed. If they were addressed, we wouldn't be here today. And so for that reason alone, we do not want to settle. Felt that this was going to, the mediation was supposed to address all those issues, and it did not. If it would have, we would have been done today. But we need mediation where they're addressing all our issues, or give us our day in court. That's all we want.
Thank
Take
you.
our chances there.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Mr. Thompson, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you. I'll jump in first because I know that we have people on this council that are a little bit more learned in this area than I am. So I'll get the ball rolling and then turn it over, and I'll intently listen to what my colleagues are going to say. But I do want to start the ball rolling. Is Ryan's here from City Legal?
Or Mr. Mumgarden.
And Mr. Mumgar, feel free if you feel you need to come up with Ryan.
Ryan Wiesen, Assistant City Attorney.
Okay, for a non-legal person, I'm a social scientist. What is the difference, and for the media out there, for the everyday citizen, what is the difference between mediation and arbitration?
Well, in this case, the mediation was done before a federal magistrate in court. It was done on the record, and that's the process we use. We were split into rooms, and each side was able to present their version of events. The plaintiffs first made a demand to the city that was brought to the city, and we made essentially a counteroffer. And you go back and forth through the mediation process until you reach a settlement, if you're able to reach one. That was a process that was used in this case. An arbitration isn't necessarily a whole lot different. It just depends on the format and the individual who conducts it and the rules that are followed.
And in this case, it was mediation?
Correct. It was a mediation before a federal magistrate judge in federal court.
Okay. Do you remember our conversation last week that we had?
Briefly.
Briefly. Mrs. Johnson had contacted me, and I had given her my word that I would do some kind of investigation. And I asked you how legal was how binding was their agreement at the end of the mediation hearing, and you told me what?
At the end of the mediation hearing, we went back on the record in front of the federal magistrate judge, and the federal magistrate judge asked each of the 5 Johnson plaintiffs if they participated in the mediation process, if they understood the terms of the mediation as it had been explained to them, and if they agreed to those terms. All 5 plaintiffs indicated that they understood the terms of the mediation, that they participated in the mediation, and that they agreed to those terms.
How binding is that?
Well, it's an issue that does not come up with some frequency. They did indicate their consent to the settlement on the record in front of the federal magistrate. As a result, if the council were to approve the settlement resolution and the city were to make an offer to resolve this case and the Johnsons wanted to turn that down, I believe we'd probably have to bring in the federal magistrate judge, and there would be a discussion on whether or not the Johnson family would be able to, or would be permitted to withdraw their consent to the settlement agreement.
So it's up to the judge to decide that?
It would be an issue that should be brought before that magistrate's attention, I believe.
Okay. Should they start over fresh? I have no idea where this vote is going, but should they start over fresh, do they use the same set of lawyers, or do they have to get a different set of lawyers and start fresh?
Well, I wouldn't want to tell the Johnson family who they should retain as attorneys, what kind of legal advice they should follow, what their course of action should be in the future. As attorneys for the law department, we represent the city. We feel that this is a resolution of this case that avoids the risk potentially of trial, especially if significant legal fees were incurred and would be awarded against the city.
But there's no automatic rule that says you have to get a new counsel?
Again, I think that may be an issue between the federal court, the attorneys that the Johnson family has retained.
Okay.
Something that they would have to work through. Okay.
How do you respond? By the way, these responses are a little different than what I heard last week, but I understand that because I caught you off guard. I think I caught you in the hall, in fact, and so I'm not despondent that the answers are a little different. But how do you respond to their claim that all of their issues were not addressed in mediation? How do you respond to that claim?
Well, the mediation process in this case was a confidential settlement process, as I indicated to you previously. After the judge opens the record, the parties split into different rooms. I was not present with the Johnson family and their attorneys and the federal magistrate judge when they were speaking with the judge and formulating their demands and offers to the city. They weren't present when we were with the federal magistrate judge and discussing our position and our counteroffers.
Mm-hmm.
I was not in that room, and I don't know if I can answer that question. I will say that the attorneys for both sides submitted written documentation of the claims, the facts, the issues, the potential damages to the magistrate judge in writing as a confidential mediation statement before everyone got to the courthouse. Mm-hmm. So the judge was fully informed of every claim that was at issue, every claim of potential damage, any defenses that might have been relevant. I believe that the magistrate judge made an informed mediation in this case.
Okay. And so where it lands then is whether or not this council wants to grant their requests, they want to take it to court. City wants to settle with what you feel is an agreed upon package, but they're saying we want to go, we don't want to honor that agreement, we want to go with our day in court, and this council has to decide whether or not to grant their request.
I would disagree with that statement.
Okay, then please clarify.
I believe that this council, the question that's before this council is whether or not a settlement in this case is in the best interest of the city.
Of the city.
If the council determines that the settlement is in the best interest of the city would then make an offer to confess judgment to the Johnson family, and they would have to determine whether or not they wanted to formally accept that settlement and end this matter, or we would have to get the magistrate judge involved, and that judge would determine whether or not that they could withdraw their consent to the agreement.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, and I'll go ahead and get out of the way and let the legal minds pick up where I'm leaving off.
Thank you. Ms. Melton.
No, I just have one question, because I'm somewhat concerned that your attorneys aren't here with you.
Excuse me, ma'am, I am.
Oh, That's good to know. Thank you. It would have been helpful maybe if you'd have come down and let us know that you were here.
Let me just make a brief statement. My name is Diana Vogt from Sherritt's Bruno and Vogt, a law firm here in Omaha. I have represented, this case was brought to me by the ACLU on behalf of the Johnsons. I did not speak for either proponent or opponent because I'm in I'm in an ethical position that I don't know what to do. I was in the courtroom. I was in the room with the magistrate during all of the mediation proceedings. I know everything that went on. The judge asked me on the record if I believed we had an agreement. I said yes. I believe as an officer of the court, I am bound to that. On the other hand, my duty is to zealously represent my clients. So I do not know, you know, what my role at this second is. In other cases than this, I have seen cases where I think what Brian was talking about is usually the other part, if one party decides to change their mind, then the other party usually brings a suit to enforce the settlement agreement, because the settlement agreement is usually a binding contract. But quite frankly, again, I don't know what to say because I feel I am bound by the agreement, but that's not what my clients want. So
I understand, and I'm sorry, I'm glad that you were here. I was just somewhat concerned that they were here without their attorney even knowing that they were here, that there was a problem. So I appreciate you stepping down, and I actually understand the predicament that you're in, and I'm not going to ask you the questions that I'm sure a lot of us would like to ask you because I know you can't answer them. I'm well aware of the ethical constraints that you have between the confidentiality with your clients, the zealous representation, and also being an officer of the court, having been in that mediation. As a divorce lawyer myself, I spend every day working with mediation, negotiation, settlement, entering decrees, and a lot of time agreement regret. So I'm actually very well aware of that, and I think even some of my clients are well aware, or other people's clients have contacted me. It is very, very difficult. What I want to let both of you know, and I know we've met many times before, this isn't about, for the council, this isn't about our decision of whether you're getting what's fair, what's not fair, how much you should get. We don't have the authority to make that decision. We didn't have the evidence. We haven't been presented with all of the evidence, all of the facts. I think making an offer, I support. After reading, I am in support of this. Unfortunately, today, though, we can't change that amount because what happened in federal court was a settlement was reached, and we just have to say, do we think this is fair for the city? Because we represent the city, like Ms. Vogt represents you. We're not sitting in the job of a jury or the magistrate or a judge at this point. Right now, we're just sitting as representatives from the city. And so it's a difficult position that we're put in because what we have to say is this in the best interest of the city? And so the answer, I believe, is that this is in the best interest of the city. Doesn't mean that I don't necessarily have my own personal opinion about your case. I don't have, as much information as your attorneys and the other attorneys. But I think, work with your attorney to discuss maybe what some of the other possibilities are. And again, I don't practice in federal court, so I can't render any legal advice in this fashion anyway. It's much different in state court and dealing with the mediations that I deal with. There's a lot more time in between when you reach a settlement and when you're stuck with it. And I don't know how much time this mediation took. Was this a day, 2 days?
It was all of 1 day from in the morning.
1 day?
Yes.
Your name, please.
Name and
Diana Vogt, sorry.
Thanks.
Diana Vogt, 260 Regency Parkway Drive, Omaha.
Okay. And maybe that's probably some of the difficult, as I actually just became a certified mediator about 3 weeks ago. Yeah, thanks. Family law mediator. And the mediations are very, very difficult. Even when we were sitting in there and just kind of doing the role plays, you spend hours talking about something that's highly emotional to both of you, that's very difficult, that's somewhat complex, that you've never been presented with before, and then it's kind of like, well, come on, we've been here all day, let's just get to a decision. I don't think that's necessarily the attorney's fault or anybody else's. It's just really stressful. So it sounds to me like maybe the process is something that may not be in everybody's best interest, but that's not something that this council has, unfortunately, anything to do with. And it may be my personal opinion, maybe as an attorney and mediator, that cramming everything into one day, not letting somebody go home and sleep on it and think about it, and talk to their attorneys again the next day, that maybe it's the process we don't like or having problems with. Today, though, I can't make any of those decisions, and really not my place for criticisms. And Ms. Johnson, I'll allow you to respond. I just want everybody here to know our place just has to be, is this in the city's best interest? Then it'll be up to you to maybe figure out how, if there's any way you can get your day in court. Everybody deserves their day in court. The problem is, once you mediate, make a settlement, enter it on the record in front of a judge, it makes it a lot more difficult to get your day in court, similar to a defendant who comes in and pleads guilty and then decides later, well, I don't want to. It's very, very difficult to withdraw that plea, and virtually impossible once there's a sentence. So we do have legal processes that we need to maintain. But I will give you the last word. I just wanted both of you to know that this isn't our opinion on how much the settlement should be. This is what it is, and we just have to vote on whether it's the city's best interest. So, Ms. Johnson, I know you wanted to say something.
Basically two things. The first thing was that we thought we had to sign off on the contract. We did not do that. So I'm assuming that this new way they do it with this recording thing in the room and some invisible person I don't see is their new way of doing it. So I guess that would make it legal in my opinion. But from when I spoke to Amy Miller, which is from the ACLU, she explained to me that we were going to have to sign off. And we didn't, and we didn't. And so I didn't think that we were subjected to just that, and we were done. And then, at the same time, we also felt that we were not going to, even when I read the paperwork today, it shows Octavius as the only person, as though that settlement was for Octavius. Never was it explained to us that the family wasn't being considered. Like I said, without a long, drawn-out explanation on what we've been through. My son's had injuries. Outside of Sharon, she has injuries. But the only person they took account of was Octavius. We never got to speak on any of that. That alone, to me, said we're not heard. That mediation has to take place or we are in court. That's it. So all we're asking is not to take that judgment at this point, saying that we do not agree with it, period. And start from there. If that means going back to mediation, do that. But right now, we do not feel that we were even, that mediation actually took place. Because mediation means that all information, everything that has to be considered. Nothing was considered except Octavius. Nothing else was considered. We were not able to speak about our injuries. We were not able to talk about the post-traumatic stress. We were not able to talk about the mental anguish. We were not able to talk about We got paperwork with things that shows injuries. We're not able to speak up. If mediation is for that alone, we did not get that. We did not. It was not to be spoken about, period. We felt we were going into mediation to get a resolve for everything, not just opinions.
And I understand, but I think this is probably the wrong venue for this, that this needs to go back in front of that magistrate, and I would encourage you to speak to your lawyers, because I'm not going to step in their shoes by any means, and you've got, Ms. Miller, who I know is, has always represented herself in front of this council very intelligently. So I think maybe this is something that you need to go back to your attorneys and discuss what options there are, if any, in the federal court, because this probably isn't the right venue, because that's not what we're being asked to address, nor do we have the authority to address at this point.
When it comes in front of you, you say yes to the settlement. That means we're done. I don't want to be done. I guess that's why we're here. Before that, that's why we're here to say we're not in agreement with it. Okay. So that you are on record before it gets to that point that we are not in agreement. We don't feel comfortable with the mediation or the way it happened. So therefore, if you're voting on if we're going on a vote based on do we agree and do we sign off on it, the answer is no.
I know, and I think that's the problem. I'm going to let our city law come back up, because I think what we have to vote on today is this in the city's best interest to accept this settlement. Do you want to clarify maybe what we are actually voting on specifically? What are we saying yes or no to today? Second, if you could let us know potentially what they can do if we vote yes or we vote no. What are the options for both sides with either vote? To the best of your ability, and I know this gets very difficult for the attorneys, because I also I'm not expecting you to provide legal advice to the plaintiffs, but if you could best answer those questions.
Ryan Wiesen, Assistant City Attorney. I'll begin with the question that's before the council. Is the settlement in the best interest of the city? That's what the council should be considering. That's what the council should vote on. In terms of the next steps, if the council were to approve this resolution, what would happen is that the council would be authorizing the law department to make an offer to confess judgment. That would mean that a judgment would then be entered against the city of Omaha only. And I will clarify that this settlement and the mediation itself encompassed all parties to this case, all 5 plaintiffs. There may be some confusion based upon the case caption. Oftentimes we shorten it by listing the first name and then doing et al. Versus the first defendant et al. That doesn't mean that we're only talking about those 2 parties. We're talking about everyone. It's just we're trying to save space on the paper. So the settlement itself resolves all the plaintiff's claims against the city. A judgment would be entered against the city of Omaha only, and all individual officers would be dismissed from the suit. If the council believes that it is in the best interest of the city to settle this matter and vote in favor of this resolution, the law department would again make an offer to confess judgment. At that point, it would be up to the plaintiffs whether or not in some fashion to challenge that or attempt to back out of the settlement that they have already consented to. If they chose to attempt to do that, it would then be possibly up to the city whether or not to try and enforce that consent that was given to the federal magistrate. In any event, there would likely need to be the federal magistrate's involvement. Anything further, I might suggest that might be legal advice and maybe more appropriate for us to provide the council in a non-public setting. The council could, though, decide that it wouldn't approve this settlement resolution. We made it clear in the settlement conference that an agreement was subject to the council and mayor's approval. And if the council chose to vote down this resolution, if it found that the settlement was not in the best interest of the city, that would be the end of the discussion, I believe.
But if we voted that down, correct me if I'm wrong, that would mean that we don't think that we should be paying $30,000. We think it should be less. Wouldn't that be the result of my no vote?
The result of your no vote would be that
less or nothing?
You believe that this was not in the best interest of the city. That could take on many different factors. There could be various reasons that would go into your determination of that.
Okay. And Mr. Mumgard,
if I could just add one thing to what Mr. Wiesen has said. Tom Mumgard, Deputy City Attorney. I've been lead counsel in this case from the beginning, and I would be lead counsel at trial. And I can tell you, based upon our experience, that if this settlement does not go through, Mr. Wiesen is correct, you are voting on what is best for the city. If this settlement does not go through, I can tell you that they will not be able to receive any more money from the city of Omaha in this case without going to trial and winning at trial. Unless we receive other direction from the council and mayor, another offer will not be made. We will go to trial and we will litigate. And so this is the offer that's being made today, and we will, based our experience has been, we will not make a second offer.
thank you. Mr. President.
Mr. Jerem. Thank you.
I don't know why this topic of do we have a deal or don't we have a deal seems to be in vogue lately. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, I filed a case on behalf of a client that thought they had a deal with an insurance carrier. And so it's just not unique to people. There are institutional financial behemoths that have these questions as well. And the question for me is this in the best interest of the city at this time? I would be hesitant to impose upon these members or people in our community a settlement that they don't think that they agreed to. I think the proper thing to do is to have them go back in front of the federal magistrate and litigate in a hearing, is there a deal or isn't there a deal? And if there is a deal, and the federal magistrate finds that there is such a deal, then I think I would feel better about voting on this. And it seems to me that the city could file a motion to enforce the terms of a settlement agreement, and they could have a hearing in front of the magistrate or one of the other magistrates, and they can make that decision, and then we would know. That to me I would feel more comfortable with. That's the process I use myself in my own law practice, and I do want to recognize, however, that there's more than one kind of agreement that can be made. There are written agreements that you obviously thought you would have to sign, that you said here today. There's verbal agreements, and in the courthouse where agreements are made, oftentimes the judges will want to seal the deal by making people speak on the record under oath that they are knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entering into the agreement and not under any undue influence or duress, and that they basically know what they're doing and they're satisfied that that's what they want to do, and they're asking the court to do it. So we don't have that here today in front of us. What we have is, we thought we had a deal. No, we didn't. So I would like to lay this over to allow and encourage the city law department to file that motion before the magistrate to allow them to litigate that issue. Is there a deal? Because we're being told there is. There's been other times when the law departments come to us as a matter of litigation tactics where they wanted our approval of an offer to confess judgment, because in the strategy of that particular case, it was a way to make the claimant think twice about proceeding forward because the loser pays if you can't beat that at trial. And we've had that kind of procedural posture in front of us. Today, as I understand the procedural posture of this, is saying, hey, we mediated this case, we had a deal, Mr. Wiesen thought he had a deal, Mr. Mumgard thought he had a deal, Ms. Vogt thought they had a deal, but Mr. Johnson and Sharon Johnson and Cherie Johnson are saying, no, we didn't. So I think they ought to go back to where they came from block away and have a magistrate say, did you have a deal or not?
Ryan Wiesen, Assistant City Attorney. Councilmember Jerem, just procedurally, I don't know if there's a motion or a procedure in the Rules of Civil Procedure that would permit us to bring this back in front of the judge just by filing some type of motion. Likely what would happen is you would have to approve the resolution and to make an offer to confess judgment, and then that would place that matter back before the federal magistrate judge. I am not aware of that there's necessarily any authority to do that in any other manner. As to whether or not everyone understood the terms of the agreement, the federal magistrate judge read the terms into the record, explained the terms of the settlement agreement, and again asked each of the members of the Johnson family if they understood those terms and if they agreed to them.
Well, I would say, Mr. Wiesen, I'm not familiar with the federal jurisprudence on whether there's a deal or no deal, but in state court there is a plethora of case law that would suggest that what I just said is the proper way to go.
Certainly.
Maybe a layover for you to allow to brief that, to give us the counsel as to whether that's a procedural option in federal court would be appropriate.
Once again, I'm Octavius Johnson, 332 on Seward Street. I was speaking with my family prior to coming here today about what we would say, what we wouldn't say. I've heard a lot of you guys say that you're not familiar with the process, so we're that much less familiar with processes or what goes on. But my family asked me not to say, but I will. I believe we were professionally coerced into the settlement that is here. Like you said, being that said, we didn't know if we would have to speak with this with our counsel, if she would even want to go further with us.
Mr. Johnson, just so you know what I'm saying, I'm not making a comment or whether this is the right or wrong thing to do. I'm just saying I think I want to know whether, in the opinion of a court, there is a verbal or written or other agreement that is basically going to be enforced here. Because I don't believe in imposing the will of the city upon an unwilling party. It takes two parties, and in this case there's multiple parties, to have an agreement. If there is one in the eyes of the law, then I would feel differently about voting on this today. So,
thank you. Mr. Gurnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question was asked and answered. Motion to approve.
It's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I heard the motion.
We gotta wait. You gotta hold on for a second, okay? Is there a second? If not, the motion dies for lack of a second.
I believe that I've been elected to do. I believe I have to second it and then let it see if it lives or dies. I believe I should second that. Even though I have mixed emotions, I believe the right thing to do is to second it.
Okay, there's still some more lights though, so it's been moved and seconded. And Dr. Thompson, you were next. Did you want to wait after the vote? Or?
I think I got my questions answered when Councilman Jerem spoke.
Okay, Ms. Melton.
Well, I just think that there were issues that came up today that I was not aware of until this council hearing. I don't feel that in 20 minutes I have all of the information that I can make this particular decision in regards to. I mean, I have legal questions that I would like to answer on my own. I would like to talk to both council members, but I don't think having another hour-long discussion on the record right now is going to do anybody any good. I think I actually agree with Councilman Jerem at this point in time. I don't know that we can direct them to go back to the magistrate right now. What I was saying is that if we did vote on this, I guess I was expecting you to go back to the magistrate and try and that you would make an argument that it was not made knowingly, understandably, and intelligently, which I assume would still be the federal requirements when you've entered into an agreement, which is what's in the state courts right now, which is what Councilman Jerem and I are very familiar with. So due to the fact that this is in federal court and I think I need more information, I would make a motion to at least lay this over so that I can have more information.
That would have to be a substitute motion.
A substitute motion to lay this over in order to get more information from the both of you because in my opinion, I just don't know what's right, and I actually think this just needs to get back to the magistrate. So how does it get back to the magistrate is going to be my question.
Well, here, I'm sorry. Diana Vogt.
No, the public hearing is closed. What we need to do.
Yeah, and I think...
She had asked a
Yeah,
question.
you seconded, so it's time for the vote.
Well, and you know what, Ms. Vogt,
How long is she laying it over?
the public hearing's closed. I made a motion to lay over so that we can
How
have
long?
these discussions later.
How
I would
long?
say 2 weeks.
Okay, thank
Is that going to present a problem? Thank you.
To the second, 2 weeks? Okay.
And that
Move it.
we can have those questions, we can engage in that discussion later.
Okay, there's a substitute motion that comes first. The substitute motion to lay over for 2 weeks. There's no further lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
No.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
No.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton.
Yes.
Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's laid over 2 weeks, 5 to 2.
Thank you.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 7B, the public hearing on agenda items number 58 through 60 shall be held on third reading. Ordinance on second. Item 61, ordinance declaring the necessity of acquiring private property for the purpose of the 132nd and Pacific Street intersection improvement project.
Public hearing on agenda item number 61 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
62, ordinance to authorize purchase order to Midwest Laboratories for professional laboratory testing services.
Public hearing on agenda item number 62 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
63, ordinance to approve an amendment to the redevelopment agreement with Quadtex to remove approximately 1.37 acres from their TIF.
Public hearing on agenda item number 63 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, Bridget Hadley, here to answer questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 64, ordinance to approve a redevelopment tax interfinancing loan agreement with 1118 Exarban LLC to implement the home-based tax inlet financing redevelopment project plan located at 1118 Exarban Drive. Proposed a redevelopment of approximately 1.37 acres, a parking lot into a 4-story Class A commercial office structure.
Public hearing on agenda item 64 is today. Proponents, please.
Bridget Hadley, City Planning, here to answer questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
65, ordinance to approve an agreement for the sale of property for the property at 2820 Bristol Street for fair market value.
Public hearing on agenda item 65 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
66, ordinance approving agreement for the sale of property located at 3362 Patrick Avenue for the use as a community garden.
Public hearing on agenda item number 66 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Ordinance approving the execution of one of 2 one-year options in contract between the city and Corvell Enterprises to provide workers' compensation third-party administrative services.
Public hearing on agenda item 67 is today. Proponents, please.
Mickey Frost, Human Resource Director. I asked for your approval to extend this contract for the medical management of our workers' comp. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents who wish to be heard? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 68, ordinance to amend Section 23-177 concerning employment classification by assigning a higher pay scale to the employment classification entitled Community Safety Education Specialists.
Public hearing on agenda item 68 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
69, ordinance to amend Section 23-177 by changing the title of a class specifications entitled Crime Lab Manager to Forensic Manager.
Public hearing on agenda item 69 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Item 70, ordinance to approve an agreement with Bellevue Police Department to authorize funding for specialized overtime operations in partnership with the Sarpy County Sheriff's Office, State Patrol, District 2, and the State of Nebraska Parole Administration.
Public hearing on agenda item number 70 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
71 is ordinance to approve an agreement with Nebraska Patrol Office to authorize funding of violent Gang and Gun Crime Prevention Program, safety.
Public hearing on agenda item 71 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Next item.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, the public hearing agenda items 72 through 78 shall be held on the third reading. Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, the public hearing on agenda item number 79 through 80 shall be held on the second reading.
Motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded to adjourn. No lights. Roll call.
Thompson.
Yes.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Milton. Pauls.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
We stand adjourned at 3:35 p.m.
For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.